Hi, my name is Lee, and I am the Executive Director of Atlanta Veg Fest. Thank you for joining us for another digital interview. Today I have Tabatha James with us. She's from The Sensible Vegan. And hi, Tabatha, thank you for joining us.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And who do we have with us?
This is my fabulous daughter, Kennedy. She does a lot of the book readings for the children's book, and she helps me with the recipes. So when I told her what I was doing, she said, well, I want to sit in on it. So I said, sure. So
that's awesome.
She's here with me.
Thanks for coming, Kennedy. And if you were at Atlanta Veg Fest in 2019, you might remember Tabatha and Kennedy did a reading of the book Farmer Sue Knew, Tabatha's vegan child's book, and that was a lot of fun. So tell us, what is The Sensible Vegan? Tell everybody what you do.
Wow. Well, The Sensible Vegan started back in 2016. And before that, it was a long time coming. Growing up in Dahlonega, I was athletic, involved in a lot of sports, just a lot of things in the community that I was involved in, but I never knew about veganism. No one in my family was vegan. No one ever talked about it. And so when I finally found out about veganism, my world changed. I ran across a documentary called Vegucated, and that's how I became vegan. I'd suffered with a lot of digestive issues, skin issues, and even though I was healthy physically and was working out, just a lot of things that were happening and I didn't know why. And so one night I was just going through videos online on Netflix, and I stumbled across Vegucated and became vegan overnight. And it's been almost 4.5 years, and it's been the most amazing thing. And I just wish I'd found it sooner. So I decided that I needed to, since it took me so long to get to veganism, and when I finally did, I wanted to get the word out to as many people as I could. So I started researching, going online, watching a lot of documentaries, and then I decided to create The Sensible Vegan and do a website to get the information out to people, because a lot of people had questions and I was still learning in the process. So I wanted to find a way where I could keep learning but share the information with others. So I developed The Sensible Vegan, and it's just a vegan website that has recipes, all 10 ingredients or less. For busy families, you don't want to be bogged down with 20 different ingredients and taking 2 days to complete and something overwhelming. I wanted it easy to do, accessible, inexpensive. And I wanted to share those. And then I wanted to do my children's book, because I've been a writer for all my life. And this is my second book, but my first vegan children's book.
And Kennedy's behind you holding up Farmer Sue Knew.
Oh, there it is. There it is.
Now, tell everybody, I know what the book's about. My son has it, and it's adorable, because it's always nice to find titles for your vegan children that are just really nice and resonate for the age group. Tell everybody what Sue Knew is about.
Okay, well, one of the things that when I became vegan, when I learned about what happened in the dairy industry, with the separation of the calves from their mothers, just the abuse, everything was wrong. And when I became a mother myself, it really resonated with me. And just the bond, a mother has with her child is just unbelievable. And to have that torn away just for milk or cheese, it just blows my mind. So I created this book just to share the story about a dairy farmer that has children of her own, and she becomes vegan and ends up having an animal sanctuary. And it's happening in the world today. A lot of farmers, of course, are turning their farms into plant-based. They're producing plant-based milk. So this is it's real, and it's happening. So
that's a really nice sentiment for a children's book. And you're absolutely right. Being a mother myself, I was vegan for many years before I became pregnant, and I was actually surprised at how much it hit me once I became a lactating mammal myself, at how the connection was. And I did see your piece on the Mothers Against Dairy campaign, and it was very moving. So I urge you to look up the Mothers Against Dairy campaign. There are a lot of really good testimonials from mothers there. So
Right.
so
Yes.
what else happens on the Sensible Vegan? It's a record of your journey, and you have your book,
Right.
and you also have snack boxes. Is that right? Like
Yes,
boxes?
I do. My snack boxes, the way these came about, I don't know if you can see all of them. This is one of my 15 snack boxes, and it has granola, it has popcorn, it has cookies, it has seeds, nuts. There's so many things in here, and each one is, I do customized boxes, just a variety of just yummy vegan snacks. But it happened because years ago, my daughter's in a school, and there are not many vegan children in her school. And a lot of parents would talk to me about veganism and ask me about snacks. And Kennedy was getting a lot of questions at school of different students asking about what's that. And then she was starting to see other kids having the same snacks she did. And so people kept asking me, and I said, to make this simpler, I like to help, make people not have to worry as much or get as much anxiety as going to the store and, what can I buy my kids, and, what kind of snack should I choose? So I wanted to put it in a box, some of my favorites, and make it accessible. And that's how the snack box started.
That sounds like a good way to just get started to try some new things if you're not sure.
Yes.
Like for a new vegan, so it'd be good for a gift.
Right. Yeah, definitely. I know a lot of times in stores, I'll be grocery shopping and I'll see someone just staring at the snacks, and I'll pick one up, and sometimes I'll ask them, well, have you tried that before? And then it goes into a whole conversation about veganism, and just sometimes you see the sigh of relief, like, wow, I didn't know, and I feel so good now, I understand, or now they get so excited, and it really makes me feel good that I'm not only giving my family nutritious meals, but I'm helping others as well. And it just happens randomly all the time.
Oh, it sounds so nice that you're the type of person that's willing to talk to strangers at the store about their food and help them. It sounds like you're really interested in providing vegan information to those who want it. Cool.
Yes. And a couple of years ago, I had gone through a series of car accidents. I was rear-ended twice, ended up having shoulder surgery, and then 3 weeks after my surgery, rear-ended again. And so in my downtime, I had a lot of downtime. It took over 2 years to fully recover.
Wow.
But I decided to get my holistic nutrition certification. So I, read a lot about it, because I not only want to know, I want to cover all the bases. Because a lot of times people want to hit you with, well, how healthy, even though I didn't do it for just the health reason, that's a great plus. I did it for the animals, but a lot of people are interested in knowing, what are the health benefits, and I want to make sure I have as much information that I can to offer people as well.
Sure, that's great. That's a really good thing. So what can people find on the sensiblevegan.com now? Is there a blog that you maintain?
There's a blog. There are just many recipes, from snacks to salads to pizza to burgers to desserts. There's a variety of a lot of different recipes. Like I said, they're all 10 ingredients or less. And a lot of them are kid-friendly. They're very family-friendly. Like, we have pizza night, and my daughter, my husband, and I, we make pizza. My husband has ventured into recipes himself. So it's just great to see that. But there's a lot of recipes. There's a blog with information as far as what's going on in the world regarding veganism, just upcoming events, things like product reviews, some of my favorites. I'll do reviews on those so people can see which ones I like, what are my favorites, which ones I didn't really like. And right now I'm redoing the website. So I'm adding a lot of new things and making a kids corner and making it more kid-friendly as well.
Oh, that's great.
Right.
So Kennedy, how long have you been vegan?
It's been about 4 years. Yeah.
4 years.
She's like, why are you putting me? She said, she didn't know.
You came front and center, so I get to ask you a question. So do other kids ask you about being vegan sometimes?
Sometimes at lunch or snack.
Do you like talking about it, or does it make you feel kind of weird, or how do you feel about it when people talk about it?
I just sometimes talk about what I have for lunch or my snacks.
Oh, good. good.
There was one instance last school year, and they had a field trip, and she was the only one that didn't get to go to the aquarium. So my husband and I had to have a talk, because of course, when you're 7 or 8 years old, you want to be included. You didn't want to be left out. So that was a delicate time, but I was able to contact Full Circle Farm Sanctuary, and they opened their doors, welcomed us in, gave us a full tour, treated her just amazingly, and it was phenomenal. Ricky Higgins gave the tour, and it's just, they do such great work there. So I know a lot of families are faced with, okay, well, what kind of activities? I mean, there's a lot of dilemmas, and with her, she's in a private school. So I know in public school, it's even more with not being able to decide exactly what you have for lunch. Sometimes you just take what they have, and then there's so much bureaucracy and democratic politics involved. But in her school, they're really accommodating, and they let her do a presentation on Full Circle when she got back, and it was really amazing. So
that Full Circle and other farm animal sanctuaries are a great alternative to zoos and aquarium, otherwise known as water zoos. And
yes,
there's something, just as soon as a child is born, where books are put in our hands that are like zoo themed and circus themed, and it just seems like it really is fully ingrained in like child culture and books and TV shows and stuff.
Oh, right. Even
son,
toys.
Yeah,
as well.
Toys. I mean, it's everything is an animal with a saddle or whatever, and
right.
So it is hard. I have a 9-year-old, and we did have to have a zoo talk a few years ago, and we went to Full Circle several times, and that is if you have children and you're not sure what to do, I definitely recommend a sanctuary. We have several great ones in the Georgia, Metro Atlanta and Georgia area. And another reason why your book is so helpful too. It's nice to have a book that a child can say, oh, well, I'm vegan too.
Right. Yes. And a lot of parents were really grateful, because it can be hard, and it can, especially if your child is the only one in the class, or some kids just don't understand, and their parents don't really explain it to them. So it's just a good tool to help. And there's a lot of great vegan children's books out there, that also share the same message. So I'm just glad it's a great time with all the resources and everything coming out. It's just wonderful.
Yeah, I agree. Another one we like in our house is Dave Loves Chickens. That's a cute one, by Carlos Patino. That's a cute one too.
Right.
Okay, so you have some upcoming projects. One I was particularly interested in, because I love a good starter kit, or with information. Tell us what your starter kit is going to be.
Okay. Well, I received different starter kits, but this one, it encompasses a lot of different things. Just veganism as far as motherhood, being a mom, being a wife. My husband was a former professional athlete. He played baseball. He played for the Angels and the Expos. And he's going to do a piece in there regarding athletes and veganism from that aspect, because before he became vegan, it took him about 6 months after I did. But he was more concerned with, well, how am I going to get my protein, with the meat, and, needing protein. And once he realized, he watched Game Changers for one thing, but that just blew his mind. But before that, a lot of men don't understand, well, how can you still be fit and not eat meat? I mean, where's your protein going to come from? So that he's going to address that. And there's going to be a shopping guide. There's a lot of nutrition information, and then a lot of information about animal advocacy as well. So it's just it encompasses a lot of things.
Oh, that sounds really good. I'm looking forward to seeing that, and hopefully we can share some of those with the Atlanta Bench Fest group next year.
Oh, that would be wonderful. I'm looking forward to that.
That sounds like a really good resource.
So
is your husband vegan as well for full time?
Yes.
Household?
Yes.
Cool.
Whole household. After I became vegan overnight, of course, I didn't expect him to. I literally woke up the next morning and was like, I'm not eating meat, I'm not eating cheese, and I was like going wide open. He was like, wait, what is going on? So I had to, scale it back a little bit, explain about the documentary. But I didn't like force him and be like, well, today, since you're starting today. I started modifying the recipes I was making. Sometimes I didn't tell him there was no meat. He didn't even know, like the lasagna. Some of the burrito bowls still tasted fabulous. He had no idea that I substituted like seitan or tofu because the taste was still there, and it just happened to be vegan, but it still tastes phenomenal. So he said he started feeling better, more energetic, and now he's like one of the biggest spokespersons for the company. He's full in, and it was exciting for me to see him embrace it and learn for himself as well. So,
oh, that's so good.
Exciting.
Yeah. Great. It's so nice when the whole household is on board and enjoys it.
Yes.
What's the one meal that you guys make every week? Like, what's one that everybody loves?
We love burrito bowls because they're easy and everybody can put what they like in those. So we make a lot of bowls, and then he loves the sweet potato black bean burgers. So I make those a lot, and you can make those, freeze those, and then just pop them in the oven whenever. So this
The
is
sweet potato black bean burgers are on your website, right?
They're on my website, yes.
I'm going to try those. Those did look good.
Yes, thank you so much.
Very cool.
Right.
This weekend, in particular, this has been a really big week in our nation. And Tabatha and I were talking via email before this interview happened, and we wanted to make sure that we had space for Tabatha to talk about this, and we can have a nice open discussion, both as vegans and as you, Tabatha, being a Black woman in the vegan community. This is, if you're watching this or listening to this later in the year, right now is May 2020. And right now, there have been protests each night with the death of George Floyd. And it's been very emotional for a lot of people. And to add, even more fuel, vegans can sometimes be a little bit hard to deal with online. For various amounts of reasons. And, I wanted to give you an open space to express your feelings about that and to talk about that. So where would you like to start?
Well, I'll start by saying I grew up in Dahlonega, Georgia, and I experienced racism growing up. There were not many Black people in Dahlonega. There were not many people that looked like me in the school at all. I think out of my graduating class, there was maybe 5 or 6 of us out of hundreds. And I am to this day the first and only ever Miss Black Dahlonega. And I can say that when I won, they wouldn't put my picture in the paper. My mom and dad had to try to submit a picture, but they put a full picture of another woman that was supposed to win, that they thought was going to win. So I dealt with things like that. I've been pulled over by the police, I don't know how many times, just driving. And my grandfather was chief of police at the college I went to. And a lot of times when they saw my insurance would have the last name, and my dad is the third of that line. So when they saw that name, that sometimes would save me from who knows what. It was like, oh, you're Chief Jackson's daughter. Oh, okay, well, have a good day. And they would jump in their car and leave. But so I understand it's just something that we've dealt with all of our lives. And so when I see what's going on now, one of the other things I wanted to share, this was my first children's book. It's called I Love You Every Day. And it's just a tribute to parents and how much they love their children. And this book is dear to my heart because growing up in Dahlonega and all the things I experienced, my parents always taught me to never be ashamed of the color of my skin and to never let anyone put me down because of the color, make me feel inferior. And that's what we teach our daughter. And this is the message that I have put out to the world so they could, and it's children of all races, backgrounds, Asian, Black, white, interracial couples. But it talks about parents' love for their children. So multiculturalism is near and dear to my heart. And to see what's going on today is just a culmination of the years and years of this behavior. And one of the things that really hurt me is seeing some of the dialogue between vegans online. It's a sensitive subject, but sometimes when I watch cubes or vegan outreach on the streets, one of the things that I notice in a lot of the videos is when the topic is approached to some Black people on the street, they take offense because they're saying, why are you telling me to care more about animals and you're not saying that you value me? And that's one of the arguments that I see a lot in the videos. And there has to be, I love what, there's got to be a way. I know Christopher Sebastian is phenomenal in his work, but there's got to be a way where we are as passionate about veganism and outreach, but in times like these, we come together with our brothers and sisters and find solutions. Vegan should be saying, I'm not going to speak, if you're not a person of color, I'm not going to speak for you or try to tell you how to react or how to feel or what you should be doing, but how can I understand what you're going through and what can we do to pull together to help each other? I see a lot of people trying to mean well, but the point is coming across and it's creating a lot of anger, a lot of hurt, and a lot of times when people compare animal rights to, what's going on with race, it doesn't always, what they're trying to say does not always translate. So in the vegan community, we have to come together and find solutions and a way to come together during this time. I mean, I just sit back and I've just been observing a lot of the interactions, and there's a lot of organizations speaking out about what happened and just saying, it was wrong. And there's some that are saying, well, the rioting is worse than what happened, and that caused it. So there's a whole range of emotions going on, but I think we need to have more solutions brought to the table. And I think maybe there could be a committee organized. I don't know. There's just a lot of things that could happen to bridge human rights and with the whole vegan message, but to make sure that certain races don't feel excluded or feel talked down to or told how to react or how to behave. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done.
There is absolutely a lot of work that needs to be done, Tabatha, and I'm with you 100%. And I know that when we were speaking previously, you said you weren't going to name any names. I am going to name a name because there is something that's in a lot of people's feeds right now, and that's Anonymous for the Voiceless came out, and in their typical fashion, they are 100% animal driven. That's what they do, but they were making a big to-do about some protesters holding up a butchered pig's head as part of protesting. Yes. And that is, and I don't speak for all vegans, of course, but it's tone deaf in my opinion. And there is way more at hand right now with Black Lives Matter and these protests.
There's a time and a place for everything, and you have to have an amount of sensitivity, and can't be so tunnel vision that you're missing the whole point.
Yeah,
it's just like saying the all lives matter. We're not saying no one else's life matters, but at this time we're dealing with the issue at hand. But no one else is saying. Just like in veganism, if a pig is slaughtered, you're not saying, well, all cows matter. We're not trying to be divisive. We're not saying one is more than the other, but at this point, this is what the focus is. And that's what we need to pay attention to.
Intersectionality is really key in any movement, especially, in the vegan movement, we need more intersectionality. We cannot have animal rights if we don't have human rights in all capacities. And I saw a quote this morning that I thought you would appreciate, and I wanted to mention it. It's from Jake Conroy. He is an animal activist. He was with the Shack 7, if you recall that, from the early 2000s, but he now has a YouTube channel called The Cranky Vegan, and his quote is, it does not take anything away from your veganism or your activism to stand up for humans that are oppressed.
Oh, wonderful.
So
Totally.
there's a time and a place, and I do think that obviously this is the time right now for Black Lives Matter, and I'm sorry. I just wanted to say I'm sorry that you're having to see such infighting online when there's so much emotional things happening right now.
Right. And a lot of people think they're helping, but it's just not helping the situation. So, but like I said, there should be, when you become vegan for the animals and you understand that aspect and you see what's going on now, you need to just first, if you're not a person of color, step back and say, okay, can you have a dialogue with someone of color and talk to them about what their views are. I have a friend that is vegan, and he sent me a message, and he said, well, what do you think about this? How can I share this with my friends and followers? What advice do you have? Instead of just jumping out, saying, well, this is how, Blacks should be reacting. They should not be protesting in this way. That's not how we make positive change, by talking down and doing the same things that are, causing the problems in the first place.
Yeah, understood. As a white woman of privilege, I want to ask you, how can I help you as a vegan activist in this time right now?
Well, like I said, I think this dialogue is helping. Have more positive dialogues and be more open-minded. We should not just jump to conclusions, but seek to really understand and listen. There's one thing as far as listening, but having your preconceived notion still in your mind, but you're nodding, but you've already got your mind made up, and I've got it figured out. Because if you're in a position of privilege, the way you see things is totally different. So just listen and try to not insert your view into what you think should happen. Just really listen and then change. I mean, there's a lot of change needs to take place. And then spread that message to others. Speak out. When you see that type of misinformation and ignorance and just being spewed, speak out. I have a lot of people that I see online that, they're my friend and whatever, but they are silent. They're not saying anything. And it's like, okay, I'm observing, during this time, what's going on, but just don't be afraid to speak out and and sometimes just be quiet, but being there in solidarity, standing with someone speaks volumes.
That's good advice. That's really great advice. Thank you for that, Tabatha.
You're welcome.
So, gosh, let's see. Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about as far as veganism as a woman of color? Like, I know you mentioned your upbringing in Dahlonega, and I know that. First of all, but let me back up a little bit. What year did you go vegan?
Oh, 2016, February 22nd, 2016. Oh. Yes.
Very cool.
Yes.
I will say, I've been vegan almost 20 years. And when I first got into the community and started being involved, one thing that was blatantly obvious was it was a very overall predominantly white community. It just happened to be. And I had conversations with my friends in the community about that. And it was, I remember being at a conference like 15 years ago and having conversations saying, how can, we get other people of color on board with this message. And I'm really glad to see that more people of all colors are starting to be interested in veganism. But I will say it's only been maybe the past 8 or 9 years where we've really seen more involvement. Why do you think that is?
You mean people of color being...
Like, why are people of color new to this movement over the past decade?
I don't think as far as veganism being new to it, because, my ancestors, they grew up on plants and vegetables and grains. They planted, they cultivated. So we've known about this all of our lives. But as far as the movement, we've had to create our own movement into veganism. That's why you see Black vegans. There's Black vegan organizations. There's a lot of Black vegan groups that have had to, try to make their own space. But like people like Tabatha Brown are bringing it into the mainstream, the popularity. But there are a lot of Black vegans, but a lot of people put more emphasis on vegans that are not of color. So that's, I think, more Black vegans, organizations, groups, figures are coming out with cookbooks, workout plans. A lot of things are coming to the forefront. But I think a lot of time, even when I first started my blog and I would do recipes, I would even get comments on some of my recipes, and they were not from anyone of color, but it would be like, oh, well, how did you too bad you didn't use something, like one of them was a mini pizza that I used, and the sourdough bread was vegan. Too bad you didn't use vegan bread. Don't you know that bread is not vegan? I mean, just condescending. I know what I'm putting, I don't have to prove to you that just a lot of little, I'm like, okay. And even with my book, I'll get messaged, well, how did you know how to write a book? Like, just in a condescending tone.
How did you know how to write a book?
How did you put the book together? And just little things. I'm like, okay.
Microaggression kind of.
Well, can you send me your guide? I need to write a book, but not. It's just really, I'm like, okay, you're coming to me incorrectly, So there's a lot of. I just had to how I grew up. I just step back and I educate. I say, well, this is, you don't address me this way. Do you have a question? And then they end up being the biggest followers and the biggest commenters on my posts later on. But at first, it's just dispelling it, because if I get angry and then I block you, then you're still going to have that mindset. But if I educate you and try to help you see and you change, then that's different. But if I educate you and you're still closed-minded and hostile, then I'm not going to waste my energy. I've planted a seed, and it's up to you to choose to accept that or not. But I try to educate and, dispel as many myths as I can.
That's important, and it's great that you're putting yourself out there as a good resource for all vegans.
Right.
And I'm sorry to hear that it sounds like you've had to work twice as hard. And
oh, right.
Not that I'm surprised, but it is disappointing. That's why we're protesting. Right.
Yes. That's why. But we're making. I just think we just got to think about, like I said, this dialogue is what we need to be doing more of, especially times like these. And there's just so much to be done. There's so much that can be done. I think it's a great opportunity for vegans to come together of different races and have this dialogue, just to sit down and have a dialogue.
I agree, and it
listen
needs to
to
be
each other.
Often. It needs to be often.
Right.
It needs to be continual and be fluid. And we will continue to try to implement more talks at VegFest. I feel like we do a fairly good job of keeping our topics diverse as far as the speakers, but that's something that's always on our forefront. And if you ever have any ideas for us, I would love to hear those too, because we want to make sure we're presenting to a community in the most open way possible.
Right. And that's a lot of times I'll look at, when I'm invited to speak at a festival, I'll look at the lineup of the speakers and sometimes there's none of color. No, sometimes there's maybe one, and I'm like, okay, but you have to take what you can get and just go in there and know that if I can reach one person there, someone come up to me, I've always wanted to start a blog, and you've inspired me to do that. I've always wanted to write a book, and you've inspired me. I haven't seen a lot of Black vegans that are doing what you're doing, and you've inspired me. That's what it's all about. Just trying to, help as many people as I can.
That's really good. Do you have any Black vegans that inspire you?
Oh, goodness. Wow. Tabatha Brown, definitely. AFCO. Goodness. Maya. Kimberly Elise, one of my favorite actresses. Goodness. I think one of the biggest inspirations is my husband, seeing where he's come from, because like I said, he came from an avenue where you ate meat, you worked out, you were big, you didn't just depend on plants for your nutrition. And just to see his transformation and to see him now being an activist and going out and speaking and talking to people in the community or at grocery store, it's just amazing. And I think that he's helped a lot of his athletes because he trains baseball players, and it's just phenomenal. So I'm his biggest fan. He's just awesome. And my daughter is an inspirational as well. For at school, when she's questioned about what she eats, or why didn't you go on this field trip, or why are you eating that, or she's understood, and she made friends with Vegan Evan, and they've talked a lot, and that was really cool. But she's been a leader in her own right too. So yeah, I think that they're pretty amazing.
Oh, I think your whole family sounds very amazing.
Thank you so much.
And I just love that your husband was a professional athlete and went vegan with Game Changers. I just love that. When the athletes turn and go vegan, then it's going to be good, because they can prove that you can still build muscle and still be healthy, and that's a really great thing.
Right. That's so true. Yes.
Well, Tabatha James, I am so glad you could join us today.
Thank you.
It was a real pleasure to talk with you, and thank you for being so open with me. I don't put myself out there a lot as far as conversational like this, so it was important for me to hear this as well. So thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and do keep us updated on all the new projects, and be sure to go to thesensiblevegan.com to get Tabatha's books, including Farmer Sue New, and the other title's name again is I Love You Every Day. I Love You Every Day. It's so good. Great children's books.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tabatha. Thank you, Kennedy.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.